Hi guys, welcome to Tabletop War James. Today I'm going to show you how to go from this to this lovely Zone Mortalis tile. I'll see you in a bit.
Meow.
So guys, we're just going to jump straight in. This is everything that you need. You need a lead belcher from Citadel, Chaos Black from Citadel, a clear lacquer from Halford's or a gloss varnish, a matte lacquer or a matte varnish. I'm using the one from Halford's. You need some Sansador thinner or white spirit you can use. I've got some burnt umber oil paint there as well. It could be any oil paint, but I prefer to use Winsor & Newton. Paints that we've got there at the front from Citadel are Xander Dust, Steel Legion Drab, Mechanica Standard Grey and Administratum Grey. That is all the colours that you're going to need. You're obviously going to need an airbrush as well, some old brushes and some kitchen roll. An airbrush is very important because this is what we do for pretty much everything. So if you haven't got an airbrush, then I don't know what other ways you could use. You could do it by hand, probably dry brushing or something like that. But yeah, an airbrush is a very vital tool for this way of painting the Zone Mortalis tiles. So step one, guys, is we need to prime it. So all I've done here is I've just given this a coat of Chaos Black. It doesn't have to be a perfect coat because you're going to spray it with lead belcher anyway, but just to give you a quick look, this is where we're at. So just a quick coat of Chaos Black all over the model and leave that to dry. So step two, guys, as I've just done here, I've done this off camera again, just because you're just literally just spray painting it, lead belcher. Oh, got some oil paint on my hand, great. We're going to need that later, but yeah, so just give it a good decent coat of lead belcher after the Chaos Black and leave it to dry. So third step is we're going to take our Steel Legion and we're going to be using our airbrush. I'll just use a Badger 105 with a Badger airbrush compressor. We're going to put the Steel Legion in on all of the floor tiles. So I'll quickly load up the airbrush. All we're going to do now is knock my background down. That's what we're going to do. There we go. So it's quite fiddly because it's quite a tall piece. All we're going to do here is you're going to see how rough and ready this is. So just check my airbrush is working. Excuse the noise of the airbrush. So here all we're going to do is, for instance here, just going to fill in squares with the airbrush. As you can see, you haven't got to be perfect. I'm not even going completely to the edge. I'm literally just filling in the square. Doesn't matter too much if you go on to the edges. As you can see, I'm not being completely perfect. I mean, here, as it is still wet, you can just run your finger over the edge to get most of the paint off. But overspray adds character, and that's the words I live by. Overspray adds character, especially to scenery. It really does add character to scenery. So, but as you can see, I'm not being super accurate. I'm not even being really close. I'm a good like 5-6 inches away from the thing, from the piece. So I'm going to cut this here, guys, and we're going to come back when I get to the next step. So see you in a bit. So next up, we're going to be using the Xander Dust. I've already preloaded this into my airbrush off camera. Again, same thinness, and all we're going to do this time is take what we've done. I've dried this off camera with an airbrush. So now you can with an airbrush with a hairdryer. So now you can see how it looks all dry. So it gives you the rough, the beige look. So all we're going to do now is go back in on the centre of these and just add in, being a little bit more careful this time, like so. So we're just basically going over the Steel Legion, leaving a little bit of it around the edges, like so. and basically just fill in the tile. But just to show you how quick it is, I'm just going to quickly do this whole tile on camera, because it is a super quick way of painting these tiles. So the harder bit is coming later, when we actually get to the oil paints and stuff, because you have to leave stuff to dry and things. But let's just fan that one out a bit more. It looks like a spot, but yeah, a lot of that at the front there later on will be covered with hazard stripes. So that step there has literally just taken me 2 minutes, and that is the spots done. Just going to fan them out a little bit more, and then all I do now quickly is, while it's still wet, being careful, just run my finger along some of the edges where there's a little bit too much overspray. But that's it. So I'm going to dry this off camera, and then we'll move on to the next step, which is painting the walls. See you in a bit. So next up, you can see that now I've dried it off with a hairdryer. You've got the floor tiles, which look pretty cool. That's the floor tiles done now. You don't need to do anything else from that, apart from once I've painted the walls, we're going to gloss it all, and then we can move on with the oil. So next up, we're painting the walls. So we're starting off with Mechanicum Standard Grey. I've already thinned this down in the pot, as I said, and back on with the airbrush. Here, we really don't need to be anything special. Again, just check the float, and we're just going to go in and just fill the area again. So I'm filling just this sort of shape here, and then I'll do these two little bits here as well. So again, I'm not being too neat, but that's the middle bit, and then we'll do these two little bits here, and then we'll do the same at the bottom. Like so, and then we'll do this little bit underneath the gun here. I'm going to leave the actual turret with silver. So we're going to do that bit there. And then the other thing I do as well is I do these two little hollow bits here as well. I even cover the pipe. I'm not too fussed about the pipe there. So again, like, you don't need to be amazingly accurate, but the more accurate you are, the better it will look with the airbrush. So I suggest you possibly get a little bit of practice first. But by the end of painting a 4x4 table, you're going to be pretty good with an airbrush. So it's good practice before you want to use. If you want to get used to using the trigger action and that on an airbrush, then paint a load of scenery, because it's a great way of learning how to airbrush stuff, and learning your trigger control and things, and learning how to thin your paint and things like that. So I'm doing the end pieces as well, just to match it all in. But that's what the grey looks like. So off camera, I'm going to paint the other side and the back, and I'll be back in a minute. So next step, again, I've dried this off camera with a hairdryer. So that's the Mechanicum Standard Grey. Again, if you do go over the edge, just while it's wet, just use your finger, just rub it off. As you can see, the coverage is okay. I've not completely covered it all. I'm not too fussed about that, because what we're going to do now is go in with, make sure I pick the right one up, Administratum Grey. This is going to be the highlight for the silver, for the Mechanicum. That's the wrong one. See, I normally buy 2 pots of each paint, and I have one that is thinned considerably and one that I leave for dry brushing. So just going to load up the airbrush quickly. Again, you don't need a lot of this, because you're literally just doing a little bit of a highlight on the grey. So bring this in again, and all we're going to do here is highlight the centre of the panels. So here, going in, done. Super easy, super simple. We're just literally running down the centre of each panel like so, just to give it a bit of a highlight. We're not too fussed again on accuracy, because the oil paint will hide a lot of our sins. So yeah, I'm not overly fussed with accuracy again. See that there? I've just gone onto the metal while it's still wet. Just rub it off with your finger. So it's really quick. I'm sorry that the camera's blurry, but I just want to quickly show you how. Okay, so that's the front all done. As you can see, it's already brought the tile to life as it is. But what we're going to do after this, I'll spray the back of this off camera, and then we'll move on to glossing. But once it's all dry, all I'm going to do is give it a coat of clear lacquer, and we'll come back when this is all glossed, and that's it. So I'd normally do 1 or 2 coats of this, depending on how well it covers. This can's actually empty, so I'm going to be using a different gloss because I don't have any of this left. I haven't picked any up yet, but normally I'll give it a coat of this, and then we move on to the oil paints. So I'll see you in a bit. So guys, now that this is all glossed and shiny, as you can see, as I said, I used a different gloss. I used a polyurethane varnish because that's all I had to hand currently, because I actually run out of the Halford's clear coat. But I recommend this over anything because I love this because it dries rock hard as well, gives it a bit of protection. But yeah, anyway, moving on. So now we're at the messy stage. So you can wear gloves if you want to. I have run out of gloves as well, so I need to order some, hence why I've got paint all over my hands at the minute because I've been painting some gangers. So yeah, just a quick sneak peek. I'm painting some house Goliath. So what we need now is we need to use your Winsor & Newton burnt umber. You can either get it in a little pot like this, or me, as I forgot I bought this massive one. So this one's nearly empty. This one is leaked a little bit, but still usable. But this is what we're going to use. What you're going to need as well is I've got a little pot here. This has got some stuff in it from previous ones that I've done, and all I've got in that pot is some of the Sansador thinner. It is literally just some of the Sansador thinner poured in there, just to dip your brush in every so often. And then I've got a piece of cardboard that I've got the oil paint on. So what you need is a reasonably big brush. I mean, this is the biggest brush I have currently. What I have got is I've got this massive pack of brushes that I bought from Amazon. I can use those as well because you're going to destroy this brush. There's no doubt about it that you are going to destroy this brush. So what we're going to do is literally, we've got neat oil paint here. I'm just going to load up the brush. You're going to use quite a lot of it, so don't be too shy. And we are literally just going to slap this on, guys. Literally slap, 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 slap. I normally just dot a bit on every bit of floor tile, just so that we've got something on here. And then you'll see why I use the thinners in a minute. So I'm just putting a bit on everything, like so. Doesn't matter too much. Get some on there as well. It really doesn't matter how much you put on. So we're going to cover the walls a little bit as well. Cover everything just so that there's some oil paint on it somewhere. As I said, this is super easy, super simple painting of a Zone Mortalis tile. So as you can see, I have just slapped oil paint all over it. So now this is where your little tub of thinners comes in. So what we're going to do is dip our brush in there, and then what we're going to do is just spread it all out. And all you want to do is, as I said, spread this all out, all over the tile. Get it in all the nooks and crannies. If you feel like it's not going anywhere, put a bit more thinners on there. And you basically want to cover absolutely everything on this tile. And when I say everything, you want to cover everything on the tile. So a bit more thinners on there. You don't want to flood it with thinners. All the thinners do is they just help you move the oil paint around the tile. You still want the oil paint to stay relatively thick, not so you don't want this like a pin wash consistency. I mean, you could always pin wash this before you do this step, but this just does it all in one, and it cuts out a step, so it just makes it a bit faster. So don't forget to get your edges as well, like so. And I'd say this is all real time, guys, as well, so you can see just how quick this can be. So do the walls. I don't know if you can see it like I see it as well, where it changes the colours of everything when you do this with the oil paint. So I am not being neat at all. I'm flicking this everywhere, so you might want to put some stuff down. I'll even cover this heavy bolter. Get right in all those nooks and crannies. Like so. So that's where you want to get it to. What I'm doing is I'm going to cut off camera and I'll finish this off, and then I'll be back in a minute once it's all done. So once it's all covered, it looks an absolute mess and it looks like you've absolutely destroyed it. But have faith, because you haven't destroyed it. You've actually made the grimiest, greatest piece of scenery you've ever seen. So what you're going to need now, though, is some kitchen roll. I just buy the cheap stuff for this because you do go through quite a lot of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tear a few pieces off, just so I've got them ready to use. By the way, this is literally straight after I've put this on, so this is all still wet as well. So all you're going to do now is I like to just blot it a little bit to start with, just to get some of it off, and then all we're going to do is just wipe it all off. It does seem quite wasteful, but look how good that looks already. And all we've done is just wipe some oil paint on, and now we're wiping it off. Super nice and simple. As I say, I try and make all my painting simple. I try to make things super simplified, just because I don't like making things over complicated. You can do all your layering and stuff like that, but end of the day, they're just models, aren't they? And I'm not going for any golden demons here. Not with scenery anyway. But as you can see, the floor tiles there, we're just wiping it off. I'm not pushing too hard, I will say that. I'm literally just rubbing the surface. If you rub too hard, you will actually rub through the paint. So you don't want to do that. I know you've got the gloss there to protect it, and that's why it's there. It's just to do its job, just to protect the paint a little bit. So, because at the end of the day, you are this is an abrasive, and it will wear paint off. So try not to push too hard on there, like so. That's the floor done. So now I've just got to do the walls. So I'll just quickly wipe the edges as well, so that we're not getting it too much over our hands. That's another bit gone. So there's 2 bits already. So now with the walls, I get the sides done first, just so I've got something to hold on to. So as you can see, covering the walls. On the walls, I like to try and do just a downward motion as well, because it sort of gives you the effect of streaking. And then I get the tissue in right in there as well. You can do this to your heart's content. You can leave more on there, you can rub more off, but in a way, this is what we're going for. So it leaves a little bit of streaking in the walls. I'll show you on the back because it's a little bit easier to see. Just quickly do the top of it, actually, so that I'm not getting absolutely smothered in paint. Getting all the nooks and crannies on this one. Do the crossbar. Like so. So the idea is that as you're wiping this off, you're wiping it all off the top surfaces, so that you're left with sort of like a griminess on top. So there's the floor tiles, that's what they look like now. And then just do the side panel again. What I will say though, guys, is this does take a while to dry. I tend to leave it a day or two just to allow the oil paints to dry. And as you can see that there's oil paint still on there, because when I put my fingers on it, it still does wipe off. So change to a new one. So on the walls, again, try and wipe in a downward motion, just to give you the effect of grime falling off the walls. and stuff like so. Don't forget to do your heavy bolters. Just quickly like this once more. And there we go. So that is what you end up with, and the walls like so. I will clean these up a little bit more, but you get my drift. You sort of do what you want. You take off as much as you like, you leave on as much as you want. What you can do after as well is you can, let me dry my brush off quickly and you'll see what I'm going to do. You can, like for instance here, you've got a little bit of oil paint in there, have a little bit of thinners, but an almost dry brush is what you want. And then what you can do is like just drag this down. It just gives you sort of like a streaky, more streaks if you want to. Like so. I mean, there's a bit too much oil on there still, but you sort of get my drift. And you can play about with that. You can do grime effects, and what you can do as well is you can use some other oil paints. Use like a rusty, like a sepia or something like that, and you can do some rusty effects and things like that. So I'm going to finish this off on camera, and then we'll come back after, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's all been cleaned up. Right, so that's it all cleaned up. I'm putting some keep putting fingerprints on it because it's still wet. But this is pretty much the end result. Obviously you're going to leave it to dry. You need to leave it to dry for a couple of days because oil paint does take a while to dry, but you get a real good sense on what it looks like there on the side for the walls, and then the floor tiles themselves look just like that. What I will do, I will quickly grab another tile that has been done and has dried. Let me just quickly dust it off. So I'll move this one out of the way and drop this one in. So this is obviously completely dry. You can see that the oil paint dries a little bit lighter, which is great. All I've done with this one is once it is dry, I will give it another coat of the clear lacquer to seal everything in, and then after that I also give it a coat of, if I can find it, where have I put it, there's a matte varnish that I use. It's this one. It's Halford's matte lacquer. You need to give this a really good shake, but I give it, this tile's had I think 2 coats of this matte lacquer, and it just helps seal everything in. So you got, on top of all the oil paint and everything else, you've got a coat of the clear lacquer which seals it all once it's dry, and then I put 2 coats of the matte lacquer on there. And that's it, guys. So I hope that this helps anyone on a quick way of painting the Mortalis tiles or the Necromunda tiles, depending on what you want to do. As I said, with this technique you can grime it up as much as you like. You can leave it really grimy if you want to, and do like a sump or something like that. But as I said, I've got an 8x4 table that I'm doing of this, which I showed in the last video. The first 4x4 is pretty much done. I've just got to do what I've just done on this tile to all the rest. What I am going to do on this tile is, once this is dry, I am going to mask off these 4 squares here, and I will hazard stripe them. I will do a tutorial on that, on masking that out, and then also I've still got the door to paint for this as well. So as you can see, once this is all, oh, it's not dropping in as easy as it did earlier. There we go. So once this is all dry and the door's done and the hazard stripes are done, once I've done the hazard stripes, I will do the oil paint over the top again as well, but I'll show you in the video when I do the hazard stripe tutorial. So guys, I hope this helps a lot. I know there's a few of you asking how I painted these, and that's how I do them. So let me know in the comments if this helped. If you've got any other tips or tricks on how I can speed this up even more. I don't know how I can speed this up anymore apart from drying time, heating the room to like 50 degrees and helping this dry, but that might actually be detrimental to the oil paint because it might melt. But yeah, all I'm going to do eventually as well is like the lights here, and I will paint these little bits later on, do some glow effects on the lights and things like that, just to help bring this to life a bit more. And then I have also got like barrels and things and bits and pieces, so that on some of the places I'm going to stick some barrels and do some leaking waste and things like that. And I've got some crates everywhere and all sorts of little scatter pieces. I mean, I've got these barrels as well, which are blocks of barrels that you can stick on there and do things with, which are quite cool. So guys, hopefully this tutorial helps. As I said, let me know in the comments if this has, that would be great. Give this video a thumbs up if it has helped you as well. That would be great, because it helps the algorithm and everything else. Yeah, I'll do another video of an update of the table shortly once I've got a bit more done. As I said, I've started working on the big gate as well, so that's going to be quite cool. But guys, hope this helps. And let me know in the comments, as I said before, and I'll see you next time on Tabletop War Games. Catch you later, guys.